Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Double Take. I'm Alex Safey. I'm actually not here with my brother John, unless he grew a few years older and moved out to Phoenix. But I'm here with my Jiddo Eli. Eli, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, my man. Thank you for having me, as usual. And I'm definitely excited to chop it up about some beautiful world of sports right now. A lot going on.
Oh yeah, a lot going on. It's definitely been a minute. Our last episode was actually just me and you, so maybe at some point we're just gonna have to call this triple take, or maybe you can take John's host.
Keep it as double take. What's the difference, John?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. John couldn't make it tonight, but it is Monday night. Yesterday, Eli, crazy day of football. I was shocked. We had the AFC and the NFC championship games. I missed basically 3/4 of the AFC championship game. I left when it was 7-3, and I was utterly shocked to come back at the end of the game and find out that the Chiefs lost to the Bengals. So, we'll do some quick NFL at the beginning here. We're going to get into our NBA All-Star teams. We'll do some general NBA takeaways. But first, Eli, we need to talk about football. So what the heck happened last night?
Well, what happened was Mahomes, who is our GOAT, we both believe that he's the best ever. And I still stand by that. One half of game doesn't change everything, but he played horribly. There's just no other way to put it. Mahomes played, and really the whole Chiefs offense, but Mahomes specifically played horribly. And I got these couple stats that kind of brought up like what happened in the second half yesterday. So the Chiefs were up 21-3 going into halftime after they blew that horrible end of half, touchdown field goal that they messed up and didn't get either of them. But in the second half, so the Bengals only rushed. What the Bengals did is they didn't blitz at all. In fact, they only rushed 3 basically the entire second half. They wanted to make sure they dropped back 8 people in coverage 45% of the time, which is just nuts. That's literally just begging Mahomes to just stand in the pocket and just dice him up. But
wow.
He didn't.
And at the beginning of the game, that reminds me, because Romo was saying, keys to the game, keep Mahomes in the pocket. And also, I don't know if you watched Ben selected those 3 videos with the ringer. Yeah. One of his videos was about how to guard or how to stop Mahomes. And he talked about you don't even try to, rush or blitz him because he's just too good.
Yeah. So they sent 15, they had 15 3-man rushes the entire game, which is nuts. It's so many in the first place. 10 of them came after halftime. And of those 15 plays, the Chiefs gained 38 yards in 15 plays, right? Which is nuts. And I was rewatching the game a little bit this morning. I was rewatching some of the highlights and just some of the plays, and they just stifled Mahomes like mentally. He just didn't it wasn't just him. I'm sure like Andy Reid, like the play calling and everything, but Mahomes specifically like just didn't know what he was looking at. There were a couple plays where he had somebody wide open, but he just didn't expect them to be open so fast, and then thought that he had time because there was no pass rush, and then just didn't hit that. It happened on the drive that they could have scored a touchdown at the end of the game when he took those 2 sacks, instead took the field goal in overtime, and then it happened or to the field goal to send it overtime, and then it happened on either second or first down in overtime. I forget which one. So when they dropped 8 into coverage, Mahomes was 7 of 13 for 58 yards, a pick, and 2 sacks. That's just like you can't do that, right? Yeah. You can't. That's just horrible production in the second half, and that's just what the Bengals did. They stifled them with their coverages, and that's really just what it came down to. And the Chiefs didn't have an answer.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, I didn't watch the game, Eli, so the only answer that I had as to why they lost was because, John and I both bet on them. Anytime like we put too much money on the same team, and we were so sure. I was like, I had parlayed, I had a few different parlays, and then I had like a future bet, which was like Chiefs to win the Super Bowl over the Rams. And then I was like, you know what, the Rams might not win. So Chiefs over Niners as well. But I did not hedge at all for the Bengals. And man, oh man, I mean, just utterly shocked. Patrick Mahomes, I've been saying he's the GOAT. But I know you say he still is. And
we got to give credit to Cincinnati, though. Too.
Yeah,
I'm a Ravens fan, so like, admittedly, this hurts to say out loud, but they're playing well, right? Especially Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, the offense. Like it's unstoppable. And that's the thing that I think is so special about them, of why I think they really have a chance to win the Super Bowl, as much as it hates for me to say out loud, is they have so many weapons. Like Jamar Chase is the guy, yeah, sure. But in watching the end of the game, Jamar Chase didn't do a lot towards the end of the game, like the fourth quarter and overtime. It was T. Higgins mostly. Tyler Boyd had a couple plays too, but specifically it was T. Higgins. And I think it was Romo or whoever was, whichever one of the two on the call were saying is like Higgins is their X factor, because he's their big, like, contested middle of the field kind of guy.
Mhm.
And it seems like every time it was third down in the fourth quarter and overtime, they had one third down too. They just threw a slant to Higgins and they just couldn't stop him. Right.
Yeah.
And you got to give all the credit in the world to them. They're playing really well. And, I just don't know what to say. They're playing
Yeah,
really well.
I mean, and
Go Rams.
my Dolphins fan perspective is like, I saw this report like yesterday is, the Dolphins reportedly, offered 3 first-round picks to try to trade up in the 2020 draft to get Joe Burrow. Like, that's not gonna make me feel better. And also, I'm not like, oh wow, the management, they were really after Burrow. They knew Burrow was gonna be great. Yeah, he had like the greatest college season ever, and then of course he was the number 1 pick. But between we tanked that season out and said Brian Flores was too good. We end up with 5 wins, and now we have the 5th pick in the draft. We end up getting Tua over Herbert, which whatever. We should have taken Herbert.
That lost me a lot of money.
Yeah, I remember you were sure.
I'm not much of a bettor, but that lost me a lot of money.
But between that, we didn't take it out. We could have ended up with Burrow, and then the following season we trade down and end up selecting Jalen Waddle, who's a stud,
awesome.
certified
Jalen
stud.
Waddle.
But we also, if we had the 3rd pick, we maybe could have even gotten Jamar Chase. So the fact that like I'm like thinking, man, if the Dolphins had Burrow and Chase, especially when I think the weakest point of the Dolphins team is our offensive line. Yeah. The Bengals offensive line isn't that great either, So yeah, really, really crazy. I don't know. I don't really have any takes about the second game because I was just too distracted to even pay attention.
So the second game, just real quick. I mean, I'm just gonna gush for 30 seconds about Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
he is awesome. He's been getting so much hate. I've been getting so much hate for defending him for so many years. Matthew Stafford is genuinely one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever live.
Wow.
Truly, just talent-wise. Watch him play, and it's undeniable. He has the 5th most fourth quarter comebacks in NFL history. He's got like he's like on pace to break like every passing record. Like he's just plays out of his mind all the time. And everybody just like, oh, he hasn't won a playoff game, which is of course true until this year.
So now
he only had 2 or 3. Yeah, he's already got 3 this year, right? And he was on the Lions, and like, they've had some decent years. Like, I'm not here to trash the Lions entirely, but like, they didn't have a chance, right? They should have won one of those playoff games, and that's the biggest thing is like quarterback wins is not a quarterback stat, right?
Look at Jimmy G.
Yeah, look at Jimmy G. All everybody's been doing for the last 3 months has been trashing Jimmy G, and he was 1 dropped interception. Honestly, both directions, because the Rams dropped one too. Yeah. But 1 dropped interception for going to the 2nd Super Bowl in 3 years. Like, quarterback winning is not a quarterback stat. Watch the quarterbacks play, and Stafford is as good as anybody, right? And now he's finally getting a chance to prove it with a good team around him, a good coach around him. He's playing out of his mind. Other than that, obviously, really bad throw, which was a good idea. It was just a bad throw. He short-armed it. He was open, but he just short-armed it. It happens. Thank God it wasn't picked. But
I know, that was crazy.
Other than that one play, Stafford's been basically perfect in the entire playoffs, right? The 3 games he's been out of his mind. And I just couldn't be happier for him. I couldn't feel more validated. And, I'm picking the Rams to win. Rams are favored by 4 right now. And I don't know about the spread yet. I have to think about it. The fact that it crosses 3 is tough, but I think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl.
Man, I hope. I mean, I actually placed a future bet on them in November when they got, I think, Odell, which also great for him. Really cool to see him, playing meaningful games between him and
113.
Yeah, between him, Stafford, and then even Von Miller, who obviously has already won a Super Bowl, but I didn't realize this. Eli hadn't been in the playoffs since the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Comes back in the playoffs, and now, they're all those 3 guys. Like, I personally, I really wanted the Chiefs to win. I don't really care who wins at this point. I think I'll be happy either way, but it's cool to see all these guys that I literally like on the Rams.
And then Aaron Donald too. Everybody knows how great he is. He's genuinely top 4 or 5 defensive player of all time. It feels like he's just dominating in every way. Him getting just the Super Bowl people would have to start really talking about his real legacy. So I'm excited for that.
For sure.
Hopefully.
Most definitely. So really quick, Eli, Our friend Adam Schefter, here's what I think happened. This Tom Brady situation. I think Brady tells a small circle of people, here's the plan. I'm going to retire. Don't want to overshadow the Super Bowl. And apparently there's one episode left of his Man in the Arena ESPN Plus documentary that I haven't watched. Apparently there's one episode left. So, I mean, we know how he is and how strategic, and he's got his whole media team. So I think he said, we're not going to overshadow the Super Bowl. We're going to wait till after the Super Bowl and just before free agency, which I think is at some point when that last episode is going to drop. And he had something planned for it. But someone leaked it. Adam Schefter doesn't miss. So I think he got the correct information. He says it. And then all of a sudden, everyone's reporting it. Everyone's doing the whole social media thing. We got Julian Edelman saying, thanks for the memories, babe, on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And now Brady's camp comes out and is like, oh, Tom Brady's going to be the only one to say that he's retired. So I kind of think that he's pissed that he didn't get to announce it the way he wanted to, which would be sick and would totally add to his legacy if he said, dang, you guys wanted me to retire too fast. You guys are really happy about that. You said it before I did. I'm coming back for another year. I don't like Tom Brady. I'm probably the biggest Tom Brady hater, but that would be pretty sick if he came back.
Me. I promise it's me.
All right. But yeah, I think that he's definitely going to retire, and that whoever got that information got the correct information, but it just got out before Tom wanted it to.
So a lot of that I agree. There's two things that you said that kind of stick out to me, though, that are pretty important to mention. One of them is that Schefter has missed before, for the record. Okay. He missed big time pretty recently on the draft, when like the day before the draft, it was like that he said that the 49ers were going to take Mac Jones, like confirmed that everybody thought he was. I didn't. I bet on Trey Lance. And that was the first thing. So like he has missed, just to point out. But something else to also mention is he is guaranteed his contract on February 4th, which is before the Super Bowl. So if the idea is to wait for the Super Bowl, I don't think that that's necessarily true, because I think the Bucks have to figure out what to do, and I think there's just a whole thing going on there. I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast. I think it was this morning or yesterday or whatever it was, and they mentioned just one kind of point too, is like, I don't think this is going to happen at all. But like, what about if Brady's just waiting to figure out what he wants to do, right? Like, imagine this scenario. What if he comes back for a year? He's a free agent, so he can go. Right? Like, or if he makes the announcement beforehand, right? San Francisco, his hometown. There was the things were there before. Like the reports were there before. They need a quarterback. Bring him in for a year and then sit Lance. What if he's waiting to see what's happening there? All of that is speculation.
That'd be kind of cool too.
I don't think that's going to happen. That was just a fun conversation.
It would be cool.
But the major thing is, though, I think that you're right in that he probably is still going to retire. I still believe that he's going to. But I also think that there's absolutely a chance that Brady just wants to stick it to everybody, which if I have to hear this story for another year, I'm just going to lose my mind. But, I think it's just very interesting. But if it was, my guess, I would still say I think he's retiring. I think he was just waiting for a better time. I think he's waiting to like get all his ducks in a row, make the like promo video of like him retiring, all this kind of stuff.
Love that
like
stuff.
Whatever all that stuff is, not even just him. Like, obviously he's amazing. I hate him, but not to take away anything from his legacy or anything like that. But, I think he's just waiting for it to be on his own terms. And I think it might have leaked out a little too fast. That's still what I think it's going to be.
For sure. And I really thought that he'd send it for one more year based on how this season ended. And I don't know, after winning the Super Bowl last year, it's like, oh, how are you going to win the Super Bowl and then retire? Like, when you have such a good team. And this year, things fell apart, injuries and whatnot. But I kind of think because of the way they lost it this year, be like, all right, he'll do one more year. He's always said 45 is the year he wants to play until. That'd be really sick. I mean, he's the oldest player in the NFL by 4 years. And, he's been the oldest quarterback ever too. And he almost won the MVP this year.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The only one thing about that though is like the Bucks, if they have Brady, of course they're going to be contenders. They're with Brady, you're a contender. The Bucks don't look like they have a lot to figure out this offseason. They have a lot of free agents.
Godwin's coming to the Dolphins, man.
He might be. It would make sense. But they have so many free agents. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have like a quarterback waiting in the wings. So they got to make these decisions fast. I think that there is some, basis behind Brady just waiting to figure out what is best for him, right? Like if he goes back to the Bucks and then they lose some of those guys in free agency, and then they're just like the 6th seed with 10 wins and he goes out in the second round or whatever, like, is that even better for him, to do all of this if he doesn't think that they're going to win? Like, I don't know. It's just another thing to consider, I think, is, and then the Bucks are a very interesting team next year with or without Brady. So
Yeah.
it'll be
No, for
interesting to see.
sure. For sure. All right. Enough NFL. People don't come here for the NFL takes. They come here for the NBA. And Eli, because I know we love the NBA too much and we both love to talk about it, we're gonna have the next 10 minutes. We're gonna do some general NBA, just quick takeaways. So you can do 3 takeaways. I'll do 3 takeaways. Do you want to start off with your first takeaway and then we can go every other, something like that?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do every other. So my first takeaway is, wow, the Grizzlies are really good. And I can't say that I saw this coming. I can't say, nobody did. I guarantee you, even the Grizzlies probably didn't even see this coming. They are playing out of their minds. So they are, so they have the youngest head coach in the NBA, the youngest general manager, the second youngest roster. They have the 3rd best record, and they're the 5th hardest schedule up until this point.
Oh my goodness. I did not know those stats. Wow.
Yeah,
the second youngest roster.
Yeah. Their average player is 24.2 years old.
Yeah, they're ahead of schedule for sure.
Which is insane. And they're 35-17. They're just playing out of it. Ja Morant is a supernova, a superstar in the highest degree. Everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
But even beyond that, Jaren Jackson Jr. is an all defense player this year, caliber at least.
For sure.
He's right up there. Desmond Bane, who if we go back about a year and a half to our NBA draft 2020 draft podcast, you'll remember me gushing about Desmond Bane for about 5 minutes. He was my draft crush that year, and he's proven me right times 20. He's been unfreaking believable. Dylan Brooks, scoring.
Wait, really quick on Desmond Bane. He also, I haven't watched a lot of the Grizzlies, but he's also just jacked. Like when I look at him, he
looks like a linebacker.
He's massive.
He's a linebacker, but he's shooting like, let me get it real quick while you talk, but he's shooting like 40% from 3.
It's insane. He is. No, it's nuts. It's really, really nuts.
It is insane. But the Grizzlies, they're so fun to watch. They're so good. He's shooting 42%, 41.5% from 3. But they're so fun, and they're genuinely really good. I do think when it comes to playoff time, it comes down to like your stars a little bit more, obviously, and obviously Ja is more than good enough and more than ready for that. But I think they are missing another like big wing to kind of help them out like in the playoffs. I do think I don't think that they're a championship contender just yet. They're so far ahead of schedule that they haven't been there really. Are you going to trust Dylan Brooks to be your second leading scorer in a playoff series? I don't know if I'm there yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that to put a little bit of water on it, like they're exciting, and they're so awesome. They're playing such good defense. And they're just want to give them a shout out because the Grizzlies are playing.
Shout to Steven Adams. Steven Adams too.
Yeah, Steven Adams. I have not been the biggest Steven Adams guy over the years. But he's playing his role. He's playing really, really well. And this is the thing that works though. Like this fit works because Jaren Jackson can shoot.
That's right.
I remember last year we were talking about the Pelicans, and they were my favorite team to say like the under was going to hit. Like they weren't very good, and they were going to disappoint. They're my biggest disappointment. And one of the big reasons was the Steven Adams Zion fit. Like Zion doesn't shoot. Steven Adams doesn't shoot. And like he's just going to clog the lane. It's an absolutely horrible fit. And Steven Adams had maybe the worst year of his career last year. And obviously Zion was awesome once he was healthy and whatever. But hopefully get healthy soon, Zion. You're fun to watch. Let's watch you play. But like it just didn't work. But now he's playing with shooters everywhere, especially a big man next to him in Jaren Jackson, who's a shooter. And then he's got Ja Morant to run the pick and roll with. I mean, all he has to do is defend and rebound. He's averaging 9.4 rebounds and 6 points. He literally just rebounds, defends, and cleans up on the offensive glass a little bit. Like that's it. And it's the perfect role for him where it wasn't last year. So shout out to Steve Adams is playing much better. And the last thing I want to say about the Grizzlies is they're so deep. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something that needs to get mentioned more when you talk about like the regular season, especially like not playing bad players is the easiest way to win. I know it sounds like easy and cliche, but like a lot of teams have bad players that they have to play minutes with.
That's right.
And we're Heat fans, so we'll talk about the Heat, I'm sure. And like the Heat are like that too, right? Like the Grizzlies are like 12 deep. They can have one guy miss a game, and then John Conchar comes in and plays 25 minutes and plays good basketball. Like it's nuts. So shout out to the Grizzlies. They're playing really well and they're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. So I'll just keep it simple. Yours is, the Grizzlies surprised you and how great they've been. Mine is for the same, but for the Phoenix Suns. So in our season preview, I said that the Suns, I could see them being a more like NBA Finals like hangover team where they come back. They're not they're not as hungry, maybe not as hungry as they were last year, and they kind of like with a guy like Chris Paul who's older, they wouldn't be able to necessarily recapture the magic they had last year. And I was like, yeah, they're probably not going to make the finals either. They are head and shoulders above everyone right now. I mean, the next best team are the Warriors, who are 3.5 games behind them. So that's not a far lead, but they're still the only team in the NBA that has only single digit, losses, or 40-9. And I just want to, give just a huge shout out to Chris Paul, especially, because I think he, like, the tough thing with like the MVP conversations and things like that is of course we all look at the stats and we fall in love with these stats guys. Like, I mean, even a good example would be Westbrook winning it because he had a triple double on a very, very mediocre team, right? And Chris Paul is a guy who, like, he'll never win an MVP, but the way he's playing this year and the way that team has been, they're incredible and they're blowing my mind, and they completely, I could not have been more wrong in the beginning of the season about them. And even the very beginning of the season, I'm like, Suns Warriors, we're like, oh, who's better? I was like, yeah, still taking the Warriors. But at this point, the Suns have proven they're the best team in the NBA. Or actually, I'll say the second best team in the NBA, because the Heat are the number one team when we beat them with basically our third stringers and Kyle Lowry.
Sure, I was at that game. Beautiful game. But one thing to point out about the Suns too, about Chris Paul specifically, like, what he does to make the people around him better, it can't be understated. Like, it's a cliche. Like, what does that even mean? I think if there's ever a way to prove that a person is making another player better, it's that Bismack Biyombo hasn't played in the NBA basically in 2 years and was totally irrelevant. He's played 12 games, 3 starts. He's averaging 11 points, 8 rebounds next to Chris Paul when DeAndre Ayton went down and hasn't played for a couple games. And I know McGee has missed a couple games too, whatever. Bismack Biyombo was picked up off the street on a 10-day and is averaging 11 and 8 next to Chris Paul. It's just unbelievable.
Is it nuts?
Like, what this guy does to set up the rest of his team, and it's just unbelievable. And shout out to Devin Booker too. We can't have a Suns conversation without talking about Devin
Absolutely.
Booker.
And big improvement. Last year he wasn't a great pull-up 3-point shooter. This year he's shooting close to 40% on threes, but his pull-up threes, I don't know what the numbers are on that, but his pull-up three has been lethal. Yeah. So he probably took his biggest weakness and made it like one of his biggest strengths. So they're incredible.
And that helps a lot because it takes a little bit off of Chris Paul's, shoulders, right? Like, Booker being able to create off the dribble a little bit more, which he always has been, like going to the bucket in the mid-range game, but to hit the 3 now too, just makes them nearly unstoppable, as long as Chris Paul can play off ball a little bit too. And Mikal Bridges, I mean, what else to say?
He's goodness.
All defense
worth every
too.
penny. Worth every penny of that contract.
Yeah. So the Suns are awesome. They're so good. It's going to be tough for anybody to beat them. I think they have to be the favorite right now, and they're awesome. They're just awesome.
Okay. What's next? Third takeaway.
My third takeaway is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, this is shocking, right? They're 30-20. And I forget the stat of what it was exactly, but when Garland and Allen are playing together, like, because some of them missed some games, whatever, like, they just like don't lose, right? They're playing out of their minds. Kevin Love, out of nowhere, playing unbelievably well out of a 6-man role. He's averaging 14 and 7 and 2 assists off the bench. Darius Garland, my preseason prediction, my bold prediction was that Darius Garland will be an all-star. We're going to talk about that in a second. And if he's not going to be an all-star, he's going to be pretty damn close. Darius Garland is playing unbelievably well. Jared Allen is a borderline all-star as well. Again, we'll talk about that. But maybe, actually, I think Garland's development is the number one thing. But the number two thing to notice about the Cavs right now is Evan Mobley is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. He is truly unbelievable. There aren't enough accolades to say what Evan Mobley is doing. Like, it's impossible to come into the NBA right now, especially as a big man, and be even just a good defender.
Yeah.
Right. It just takes too long. The pick and roll schemes are so different. He's playing next to 2 other big men, so he's doing so many different things, and it's nearly impossible to assume that even Mobley, who was a great prospect, was going to be a really good defensive player. He's also legitimately all defense caliber.
Yeah.
right? We've already talked about 3 of the guys, right? Like all defense is going to be tough this year. There's a lot of good defenders, clearly, but Evan Mobley is absolutely up there, and he's a rookie. He's like 20 years old, right? I don't know what his birthday is. I forget, whatever, but he's like
No,
basically
yeah,
20
he's
years
so
old.
young.
He's unbelievable. And the fact that they can play 3 7-footers next to each other only works because Mobley can basically play a guard position if he has to. The Cavs are awesome. They're for real. They're really, really good. I hate it, like, because the Heat might match up with them soon. They're so long. They're so
They
deep.
beat us twice, I think.
Yeah, the only thing that's hurting them is their backcourt depth. Now that Sexton is out and Rubio is out, like
It's
they're relying
tough.
on Rondo. They're relying on Rondo, so much. They're relying on Lamar Stevens to play on the wing, like Dylan Windler. Like they need something, but that's the thing. They have pieces to move. Like they have first round picks. I don't think they've traded a first round pick, except for the Allen ones. So I think they have all their picks available still. They have the contract of Rondo to make. Rubio to make a deal. I keep seeing like Levert or Eric Gordon like links there. If they get one of those guys to come off the bench, just play some guard minutes for them, the Cavs are scary. And
Yeah,
nobody thought this would have happened this fast, even for somebody who loved Mobley like I did and loved Garland like I did.
for
Didn't
sure.
see this coming. So the Cavs are awesome.
Cool. That's a good segue to my next takeaway. I'll do one more. You'll do one more. And then that'll be just about, actually, we're at 10 minutes now. So, of course we built in a little extra time. Mine, good segue. LeBron's going back to Cleveland this summer. Okay. That's obviously some clickbait, but I guess my real takeaway is just how the Lakers are completely wasting a really, really great LeBron season. He started off the season and his points per game was closer to like 20. Like he was not scoring a lot. And since, the supporting cast has looked as old as really they are and just as not good as they are, even like one of the, they haven't had Kendrick Nunn in the lineup. He's one of the younger ones. And like, so their supporting cast has been awful. LeBron has taken up, the load, and now he's averaging 29 points per game, which, Eli, there's only been 4 players ever to average over 15 or 15 or more in their 19th season of basketball. LeBron's doing nearly double. So obviously it's almost the same as Brady. It's like just unprecedented of how great he is at such an old age. And it's unfortunate because this reminds me a little bit of that 2018 Cavs year where I'm like, oh, LeBron's incredible. Things weren't right. They made that trade where they got rid of, Isaiah Thomas and D Wade. They ended up got rid of Jay Crowder, and they got back, who did they even get back that year? I can't remember, but it was the trade deadline. George Hill. They got George Hill. They got rid of D Rose. Basically, just basically retool that roster, and they end up making that run to the finals, even though they had no chance. But it's like this year, there's no way out. Like the only thing that might be possible is trading Westbrook for John Wall, which is like, does that even do anything for you? And I think the biggest X factor right now for the Lakers is Anthony Davis. He hasn't been on the court, obviously, but when he has been on the court, he's been super underwhelming. And the biggest thing for the longest time, I can't remember who said this on some talk show. Maybe no one said it, but I feel like it's like when you got LeBron and Davis on the court at the same time, the other 3 players could be, me, Eli, and John, and you're going to be freaking good. But this year, LeBron's been doing his thing, and Davis has just not been what we know he's capable of, especially after watching how great he was, truly great, and he had one of the like great playoff runs in 2020 in the bubble. And since then, he hasn't been able to shoot the ball. His jump shooting's he's one of the worst jump shooters. If you measure it like if you're shooting over a certain amount, he's top. Yeah. He's the worst, like bottom 5 worst jump shooter in the league right now, along with Westbrook probably. So it's been a tough year for them, but I'm really just shocked about Davis. And I'm starting to wonder, like, was that his peak? Did we see Apex Davis in 2020 in the bubble? Is that it? But unfortunately, I don't think the Lakers are going to even sniff near the finals this year. They'll be lucky to get to the conference finals unless somehow Davis miraculously becomes who he was in 2020 and LeBron can continue playing the way he's been.
Yeah, Davis has definitely been a little underwhelming, especially in terms of, the jump shooting, like you said, which is for real. He shot out of his mind in the bubble, of course, against us. But, his jump shooting. But at the end of the day, Davis isn't the problem. He's averaging 23, 10, and 3, 2 blocks, a steal. He's playing unbelievable defense. Like, Davis could be a little bit better for sure, But Anthony Davis is the furthest from the problems. It's everything else. The whole rest of the roster construction makes no sense. Davis hasn't even played in a bunch of the games, so whether he's underwhelming or not, he's definitely underwhelming. He's on the bench, right? LeBron has missed a bunch of games. Taylor Horton-Tucker didn't take the next step like they thought he would. They chose him over Caruso. Could you imagine this team with Caruso on it? Like that'd be, Caruso instead of Horton-Tucker next to Russ. At least you have a good defender out there, and obviously
best defender on the team at that point.
Yeah, and obviously Russ. I mean, listen to that. Russ to the Knicks. That's what I want. And I really think the Knicks should consider it. We'll talk about this for 2 seconds, but like they want to get rid of all those contracts, right? Fournier, Kemba. I don't even know if the Lakers would do it because even though Russ is not playing well, I don't know if these are better options. But Russ for Kemba, Fournier, and who was the other guy that I was just thinking of? Alec Burks. Right. Okay. And then you give up a first round pick too to get off of the Russ contract.
If I'm Rob Pelinka, done.
Yeah. See, at least you try. You get it. Like the thing is you're getting rid. Like I don't think the Knicks would do that without the first. And then you're giving up your only other asset to trade, which is the only first round pick the Lakers have to offer.
You got to do it. It's for LeBron. I mean, LeBron could leave, man. He could go.
Yeah, but are those guys going to help? What are Kemba, Fournier, and Burks going to do?
Well, I think
at least
if you get rid of Westbrook, it might be addition by subtraction if you lose Westbrook. But Fournier, at least, I mean, I don't know. He's more of the same. They have a bunch of shooters. They have a bunch of perimeter guys. But he's like a bunch of guys. He's a good heat check scorer.
One side of the ball. They either all defenders or they're all offensive players. They have nobody that can do both, right? And that's their problem. But it would be interesting. And then the Knicks would do it to take a chance on a star, get an extra first round pick, and then you get off of money earlier. Yes, Russ is much more expensive than all those guys, even combined, but you get off of the contract earlier. Russ is a free agent at the end of next year. Maybe you could even flip him next year to somebody for something like at the last seconds as this deal will be expiring. I sent that trade to a couple of Knicks fans, friends of mine, because I'm from New Jersey. I have a bunch of friends that are Knicks fans, and they all hated it. But I think it's great. So.
Well, I mean, they suck either way. So yeah. A few years ago, they would have loved that type of trade.
Yeah, for sure. A few years ago, I would have loved it for the Heat. I remember I was hanging out with you once.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we thought. I think didn't you really think Westbrook was going to come to the Heat?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I don't know how I felt about it, like wanting it versus not wanting it, but I thought it was going to happen. Yeah. But it didn't. So
cool. All right, last NBA takeaway. Round us out number 5.
All right, I have a question for you, Alex. I hate these like top 5 questions, whatever, because everybody's awesome and it's so hard to make a distinction. But who's the best player alive? Who do you think the best player alive is? In your opinion?
This is tough. I'm gonna
go
tough,
with. I know. There's no real wrong answer.
Of course. I'm gonna go with Giannis, and I partially think that while right now he's still playing incredible, his stat line's great. The Bucks are not as good as maybe they should be, but they face the same injuries and COVID issues as everyone else has. But the Bucks are still good. So I'm gonna pick Giannis. Although when I think of that question right now, there's probably 4 people that stick out to me.
Okay,
there's
who are
Giannis. There's Kevin Durant. There's Nikola Jokic, and there is Joel Embiid right now. Those are the 4 best players in basketball.
Yeah, see, that's interesting. I mean, so the Giannis part was actually, we'll start with the 4 guys you listed. That doesn't include LeBron or Steph, which just shows, and I'm not even disagreeing with you or anything. That just shows how crazy talented the NBA is.
Yeah.
And that's not even going down even a little bit further to like Luka, whoever, but like the next king of the world, basically, who's having a little bit of a down year by his standards, but still good enough, obviously. Like it's crazy, right? So the reason I asked you that question is because to me, it's Jokic.
Bro, we're Heat fans. This is blasphemy.
I know. He should have gotten suspended for more games. He should have gotten suspended for more of what he did to Markieff Morris, but whatever. But Nikola Jokic right now is averaging 26 points, almost 14 rebounds, almost 8 assists, a steal and a half, and basically a block. He is leading his team in every single category, all 5 of those categories. The Nuggets are 28 and 21. And
that makes no sense, actually. I didn't realize
28 and 21, and they've played how many games with a bad Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. played 9 games, averaged less than 10 points a game because he was clearly hampered with his back injury. Right? Doesn't have Jamal Murray yet. It's unbelievable, truly unbelievable what this guy is doing.
Yeah.
And the biggest knock on Jokic forever has been his defense, and his defense, has always been like subpar, right? It's so hard to quantify defense still. Like the NBA is still not figured out all these advanced defensive stats like DPM and all this other kind of stuff, whatever. So with a slight grain of salt for sure. Every single defensive stat that there is has Nikola Jokic as an above average defender now. He's playing great defense now too. He's playing great defense. He's the best offensive center maybe ever, truly, because of the
Yeah,
way that he can
that's
shoot and pass as well.
and pass. It's
Right?
not even close.
He's 8 assists a game, and he's shooting. Let me get up what he's shooting from three, but he's 8 assists a game on 26 points.
He's
and
at 37.
37
Yeah,
points,
nearly 38.
nearly 38% from three. Like, it's unbelievable what this guy is doing. He is the one-man wrecking crew. He's the only reason this team has even like 5 wins, and they're 7 games above 500. The team around him is banged up as all heck, and he's playing great defense now too. He has no weakness in his game left.
Yeah,
There's absolutely nothing left.
Here's a good question about Jokic. Will he win an NBA championship in his career?
I mean, I don't see a reason why he won't.
Yeah,
right? Like,
I kind of agree with you. Like,
I
I
have no
actually
reason to believe that he does this for 10 more years. How old is he? Like, I think he's like 20. Like, he's in his late 20s. Like,
I thought that they would be much better this year, and
26.
they were a good
Not
dark.
27.
Okay, they were a dark horse team for me.
They were my pick to make the finals.
Yeah, they're
said-
okay. So they were like my dark horse team. I actually put like $5 on them because the odds were really good at the beginning of the season. Obviously, don't think it's gonna happen unless Jamal Murray comes back, and then I mean maybe they could make a run for it.
Right.
I wouldn't count
Which
them
you're
out.
right. Losing
But the fact that I think right now where are they in the West? They're 5th. They're in the 5th. I mean that's pretty wild.
they're 5th in the West, and they have their second best player is Will Barton. And like, no offense to Will Barton, I mean he's a good solid player, but he's not the second best player and they're 1 game out of 4th. They're 1 game out of home court advantage. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic is the best player on the planet. For the record, Giannis would have been my second pick.
Well, I think Giannis has the crown. I don't know if I
think
said this, but Giannis has the crown because of the finals.
Fair. Yeah, and that's fair. I think Giannis, Durant too, he's right up there as well. Giannis, Durant, and Jokic. If you picked any of them, I wouldn't really blame you. That's fine, whatever. But like, my opinion, like what Nikola Jokic is doing cannot go unnoticed.
And honestly, similarly, I would say that Embiid is doing, he's not maybe, I would say Jokic is definitely better than Embiid, but what Embiid is doing is basically, the East Coast version of what Jokic is doing right now.
You're right. And Embiid is awesome too, right?
And I think Embiid will win the MVP this year too. So
possible.
Let's go and let's do our NBA All-Star teams, Eli. We're going to do it like basically draft style. So we'll do every other pick. The first few are going to be very simple. So like, let's start with the East starters for the front court. I'm sure we have the same 3 guys. We got, So you want to do the first one? Durant, I'll say Giannis, Embiid. Cool. So now let's do the front court. This one's actually very fun. Who is your first pick for the front court for the Eastern Conference? Or excuse me, the back. I meant to say the backcourt.
Right. So I'm going to 2-second tangent here. The fact that DeMar DeRozan has been awesome. And the answer is DeMar DeRozan. Let me ask you a question, Alex. According to the Bulls website, how many minutes at guard has DeMar DeRozan played this year?
Is it goose egg? It's 0.
It is 0. How many minutes did he play on the Spurs last year? I forget the exact number.
I think it's probably 0 too.
It's like it was like 11 or something.
Okay.
It was something like that. DeMar DeRozan hasn't been a guard since he was in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
He just hasn't been at all, right? And does it really matter that much?
No, positions don't matter. I don't care about positions at all.
I know, but that's the thing. But if you're gonna make it matter on the ballot, you have to stick to it.
Okay, that's a fair
point. It makes no sense. And this
I don't think it should matter, but that's a fair point.
And I agree with you. I think it should be positionless, or at the very least, do 2, and then a wild card.
Yeah.
Right. Because that gives you room for flexibility and like whatever, but flexibility that makes sense, not flexibility. Like last year, Jokic and Embiid were both listed as forwards as well, like for the All NBA team, for example. How many? I remember it. Embiid played 1 stint with Dwight Howard was their backup last year. He played 1 like 5-minute stint with Dwight Howard. That was the only minutes where Embiid was not the center, and he was listed at forward. It doesn't make sense. It has to be consistent, and this stuff does matter. It doesn't matter in like the moment because like who really cares that much, but like 10 years from now when these guys are going to like for Hall of Fame stuff, like it's going to be crazy. Like the difference between like a 5-time All-Star and a 7-time All-Star makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I mean, I always think All NBA matters more than that anyway, but it's the same thing.
It matters way more for the All NBA. If we do a pod later on All NBA teams, I'll be much more of a stickler about it because that stuff matters for contracts. Like an All NBA, you get a super max, right? You don't get it without an All NBA team. And that stuff matters a lot more. But the answer is DeMar DeRozan is the next guy, absolutely. But he should not be a guard.
Okay. So I agree with you there. And actually, I think most people have those 4 guys for their
Yes.
starters. The 5th guy is the toughest one.
Yeah.
For example, the guy who actually will be starting the All-Star game will be Trae Young. I think that his team is not good enough to warrant a starting spot in the NBA. I know he's averaging nearly 28
They've
points.
won 7 in a row for the record. They've
Okay,
won 7 in a row.
I didn't know that, but he's averaging, nearly 28 and 9. Really, really nice stats. But I'm sorry, we got to give some credit. And this is Miami. We always say this is Miami Heat podcast. I'm throwing Jimmy Butler on there because I know he's not a guard either. He's not a guard either. But if DeMar's getting in, then screw it. Jimmy should get in too. It's the same argument. And how are we going to be the number 1 team in the East and not have a start? Eric Spoelstra is going to be coaching that game, probably, maybe. Knock on wood, maybe. I guess we probably.
Same thing's happening with the Suns. We just gushed about the Suns, and the Suns don't have a starter either.
But we'll get there. So I'm putting Jimmy. I'm throwing Jimmy on there. He's only played 32 games, which I think a better number. Like a lot of the players who have been really available are closer to 40, 45. But, I think we're throwing Jimmy in there.
Personally, I don't care that much about games played as long as it's not anything like egregious because and it's just the way that the NBA is because the All-Star game is in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Like if Jimmy Butler doesn't miss another game this season, okay, or he's missing tonight, let's not even count tonight. Just hypothetically speaking, assuming that we know that they're going to be, we hope that they're going to be relatively healthy going forward. Jimmy Butler is going to play 60 games this season, right? 60 something games. Does that matter when we look 5 years from now, who was an All-Star? I think the best example was last year, right? Domantas Sabonis was an All-Star last year.
Yeah.
And I'm a Domantas Sabonis hater or whatever. Not the point, but Domantas Sabonis made the NBA All-Star team over Butler and Bam.
Yeah.
And I know we're biased in both directions, sure, whatever. But in what world is Domantas Sabonis an All-Star over Butler or Bam?
Yeah.
And it's only because the first half of last year the Heat were banged up, and the second half they weren't. And they played all those games. And now we look back and we didn't say first half of 2021 All-Stars. The 2021 All-Stars were Domantas Sabonis and not Jimmy Butler.
Maybe it should be the end of the season, like the Pro Bowl. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, and it's never going to be because of the spectacle. And that's fine. I like it being in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
I like the weekend, whatever. But that's why, to me, games played doesn't matter as much as long as we're projecting they're going to be healthy going forward. Somebody who's out for the season is a different story, right? If you're out, I'm Michael Porter Jr., the first guy I thought of. If he was even an All-Star, he's out for the season, he's done. Paul George, great example. Paul George, okay, fine, don't put him on your team. You don't know when he's coming back. But Jimmy and Bam, for example, are going to be healthy. I don't know. I just don't think it matters as much. So, yeah. I don't know. And for Jimmy was my first reserve. So
okay, and that's fair. So why don't we do then? You're going to draft a guard next. So who's the 6th guy on our All-Star team?
So let's call it the 7th though, because Trae, we both have him, and he was
okay. Sure, Trae. I do have Trae.
After
Trae, then who's the next guy?
I have Zach LaVine. Zach
Agreed.
LaVine is awesome. Zach LaVine is awesome. He's playing really well. The Bulls are awesome. They deserve DeMar and Zach LaVine. That's the engine that's making them go. They're awesome. Zach LaVine for sure.
Nice. So I kind of cheated. Are we gonna do forwards next? That will be 2 guards.
Whoever you think is best, then we'll just slot them where they are.
All right. So that I can't believe I'm saying this.
So right now we have 1 guard and 1 reserve and 1 forward on the bench.
1 guard. Oh, because Levine's a forward.
No, Levine's a guard, but I'm saying Jimmy because technically.
Oh, that's right.
We already know that he's starter. So Jimmy.
All right. Well, then the next guy. Here's another guard that I'm gonna go with. Was keep it with the Miami Heat. I think Lowry's an All-Star this year, and I definitely think Jimmy will make it. I would be really shocked if Jimmy make it, but I'll be pretty mad if Lowry doesn't because I know that
right now he's not gonna
make it. But I'm putting him because I know he doesn't have sexy stats. What's he got? He's 13 points a game, 4 rebounds and 8 assists. But Jimmy and Bam missed a ton of games, and who kept us alive when you were there in Phoenix? And we were playing the Suns.
That game was Tyler. Tyler had 33 that game.
Tyler went off, but who's been the guy who's been leading our kind of ragtag team when a lot of the guys have been in and out of the lineup? It's been Lowry. He's played 39 games. He's missed 2 weeks because personal reasons, which hopefully everything's good with him. But I think Lowry's an All-Star too, and I think the Heat does. In my opinion, I think the Heat deserve 2 All-Stars. Do you agree with that statement?
It's so tough. Yes. In theory, yes, they absolutely do.
Okay.
The number 1 team.
Do you have us having 2 All-Stars or no?
I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair.
And it kills me. But the biggest reason is just because Bam Bam is at the threshold of like, I just went on that rant about not enough playing time, whatever. Bam has missed enough where it's at least a question. He's probably my like second or third guy right off of the list. He's like right at the threshold, but
Yeah.
guys like Jimmy and et cetera, like we'll talk about another guy that I have like coming up in a second that's also missed some time, but has played enough. Like Bam is probably closest, like the next closest guy right there. But the biggest thing the Heat have is depth. So like, yes, I want to say like we deserve all these all-stars, but like Lowry is awesome, Bam is awesome, Tyler is awesome. I think all three of those guys are going to get consideration. But when you look at the East, how deep it is, which is crazy to say now, we've never said that before about the East. Like it's hard to pick Lowry over some of these other guys. Like I'll tell you right now. So if you have Lowry on, that means you have at least three of these guys missing: Fred VanVleet, James Harden, Darius Garland, LaMelo, and Drew Holiday. You have at least three of those guys missing.
I messed up. I've totally meant to put Harden on my team, and I did not have Harden. I slipped up. That was a big mistake.
So you have three of the. Let's just keep going though. You have three of those guys missing if you have Lowry on.
Wait, so
I
have
Lowry to death.
I don't know if that's true, but yeah.
Well, it depends how. I guess.
Okay, go on. Yeah, let's go on. So who's your next guy then?
So my next guy is, this one was tough between these next two guys, but for me, it's Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet has been awesome.
I did have him as well. I had Fred VanVleet.
He's been unbelievable. The Raptors are playing really well now. They struggled a little bit in the middle of the year when they were missing a bunch of guys, whatever. They're playing really well right now. Fred VanVleet has been unbelievable. He's all defense caliber. He's leading the team in every, he's just like the leader of the team. He's averaging 21 and a half points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, shooting 39% from three. He's unbelievable. And he's just taking over. Like there are some games this year where he just, like the Jazz game a couple weeks ago, I was watching it. He had I think he had 17 straight points or something like that, or scored unassisted on like 17 or 19 straight points, and they came back from like a 15-point deficit in like 5 minutes. It was unbelievable. Fred VanVleet is an all-star, and he is my number 2 guard off the bench after Louis.
Yeah, he's been a stud. So fun to watch, and you love to root for a guy who, I'm a big Wichita State guy. I think you also like Wichita State. But
that's probably my favorite. I'm a North Carolina fan. My favorite college basketball team of all time was that Wichita State team that lost to the Kentucky in the second round.
Oh my goodness, yes. With who was on that team? Ron Baker, right? Ron Baker
and Clay Anthony Early.
Clay Anthony. Oh, Clay Anthony, yeah. Nick's legend.
Yes, Nick's legend.
Yeah. So no, that was a fun team. But yeah, I love to see an under guy like that come into the league, and he has been incredible. I actually had him on my team, but I messed up and I didn't have Harden, so I don't know if he actually would have made the cut. But next guy, I'll be watching him tonight in the TD Garden. The Boston Celtics are not very good this season, but I did have to tip my hat to Tatum, because while he's still been, inefficient, they've had a lot of struggles closing out games. Tatum's averaging 26, 8 and 4. And while what place are they? They're in 9th place in the East. I thought, they're good enough to warrant Tatum getting an all-star selection for me.
Yeah, I agree. I have Tatum as well. Basically everything you just said, he's been good enough. I think it's just that simple. Tatum is still really, really good. He went through a really rough stretch about a week ago. I know he was like 1 of 25 from 3 over like 4 games or something, but he's been awesome. The Celtics aren't great, but they're not like bottoming out entirely. They're about 500. So I think Tatum does deserve it. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Who's next?
So now we have 1 guard and 1 forward left, which is crazy since you have Lowry on and I did it. This could make my decision so hard here. But I can't.
We can cheat it. We can cheat it. Like I have LaMelo as a forward.
It's why. It's James Harden. So James Harden, I think, is the next guy to take the last guard spot. He's been everything to that team, with Durant as well. Him and Durant are leading this team. Obviously, Kyrie, the whole Kyrie thing is, he hasn't played a lot, and Durant missed a bunch of games and is now out for a little bit. And James Harden is still averaging, his crazy numbers. Like they're not maybe as eye-popping as they have been in the past. But he's averaging 23, 10, and 8, right? And his percentages aren't as great, since it's been ball handling. Even he's been the focus of the defense a little bit more, and he's a little bit slower now, and he had the hamstring injury as well. But James Harden is absolutely an all-star guy, and I think it's just as simple as that.
Okay, so I definitely on my list cheated and had LaMelo as a forward. But you know what? If we're not gonna have LaMelo because he's a guard, then just I'll throw in Miles Bridges. I think the Hornets, they've been good enough. They've been fun to watch. Everyone loves their announcer because every time LaMelo throws a lob to Miles Bridges, he goes crazy. So I think one of those two guys is gonna get in. I would certainly pick LaMelo, but I think the way we did it with the positions gets kind of screwed up. So I guess we'll say a Charlotte Hornet. If not, just say LaMelo should be that last guy on the team. But so this is our team now.
I thought about Bridges, but I think the common pick that I keep seeing is Jared Allen, and I think Jared Allen, and especially now that we don't have Garland too.
Yeah, we don't have Garland. Okay, all right, we can switch it. Let's go back and switch it. I like Jared Allen,
but I don't want to just give a case for somebody else actually. For neither of those two guys.
All right.
What if I told you that since December 1st, there's a player in the Eastern Conference who's averaging 22.5 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal and a half, almost a block on 48% from the field? Who do you think that is?
Is that Cade?
No.
Oh, I thought it was Cade Cunningham, bro.
No,
okay, I have no clue. I should have no clue.
While playing all defense caliber ball as well. What Pascal Siakam since he came back from injury,
I should have seen this coming.
Is unbelievable. He's been a top 20 player since he's been healthy, right? And
why you love the Raptors so much, Eli?
I do love the Raptors. They're awesome. He's missed a couple games too, right? And his team isn't great. So the fact that I'm giving the Raptors 2 All-Stars is a little bit. I get it. It's a little bit. So
and you only given one Miami Heat player? Come on.
I mean, I hate to say it, but yeah, Siakam has been unbelievable. And I don't think he's going to make the team, for the record, barring like a couple injury replacements. And we do have one injury replacement, so let's talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Because we know Durant is going to be there. But like, if we're just going by pure, so now for me, it's Siakam or Jared Allen because of the DeMar thing, which again goes back to DeMar. If DeMar was a guard, right, or listed as forward, he would be there. We would be starting. In my case, in our case, it's Levine, and we'd have an extra guard spot for guys like Garland, LaMelo, and Drew, who are not on the team. So again, that's why it matters. But I think what Siakam is doing is unbelievable. He's been a top 15, 20 player in the last 2 months, and I think he deserves a shout out as well.
Okay, sure. So I'm gonna throw Allen on the last spot. Siakam can be the injury replacement if that's your pick. So right now we got DeMar and Jimmy.
Because of the guard thing, because he's not a guard. I think the fact that Darius Garland needs to be on the All-Star
team.
That's
true. I think we somehow messed up. I guess it's Lowry's spot.
And for the record, I think Darius Garland is going to make it over Lowry, and I think that's going to be the team. I think the team is pretty much DeMar, Jimmy, KD, Giannis, Embiid, Trey, Tatum, Harden, Van Vliet, Levine. That's 10, and then that gets you to the guard spot, which is Garland or LaMelo or Drew, and then Jared Allen or.
Not true, but here's what I'm gonna say, and this is a hot take, and I don't think anyone agrees with this, but I'm sorry, Trae Young, your team is 10th in the East. I know you're going off, but no. If you have a top 2 or 3 team, like I think if the players are good enough, it warrants a selection, and I think Lowry does everything that you don't see on the box score, so he's not gonna get the credit that he deserves. But like honestly, to me, Kyle Lowry is the Chris Paul of the East right now, and we're the number 1 team in the East. They're the number 1 team in the West, and he does a lot of the same things. He's leading the league in charges. He has more charges, I think, than
like
some whole entire teams. If Kyle Lowry's a team by himself, he would be up there,
like top 5 or 6.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think between his defense, how he commands the floor, and what he did when our 2, got our main guys, Jimmy and Bam, were out, like you gotta give him credit. So. But
you said about the Hawks real quick. You said about the Hawks, they're 10th in the East. They're 1 game behind the Celtics and the Raptors. So you gave at the very least Van Vliet and Tatum, and I gave Siakam the case too. We're talking about 1 game, and the Hawks are 7 on a 7-game.
So then I might have to give I might have to side with Trey over our guy Van Vliet.
No, it's fit.
Yeah, but these guys are.
I love Lowry, but it shouldn't be Lowry.
Okay. Yeah, these guys are all studs. It's tough. I mean, we somehow messed up and Garland's on there, but let's move on to the Western Conference, Eli. This is actually, I think, much tougher, even just the starters. So what do you think? Do you want to start with?
I disagree. I think the West is a lot easier.
So do you want to start with the front court starters or the back court starters?
Yeah, well, so let's real quick. So the ones that were announced, because they are announced, right? It's LeBron, Jokic, and Andrew Wiggins. and it's Ja and it's Steph Curry, right? Those are the 5 starters that are there. I did my list based on those 5 guys being there, right?
Okay.
Andrew Wiggins is not an all-star.
No, he's not. No, he's not. And I don't have him on my team either.
So for me, this list comes down to, the reason I think this list is actually pretty easy is because I think there are 12 guys that are head and shoulders like they should. I know who the 12 I think should be. Wiggins being on the team makes it hard because now we're down to 13, right? Because Wiggins is on the team and starting. So if we're taking Wiggins out for right now, right? LeBron and Jokic, easy starters, obviously. I think the next best front court guy is Rudy Gobert in my eyes. I know it's
okay. I picked Draymond, but I actually had Draymond. So all right, why don't we go through?
Draymond is next for the record.
Okay, so that's fine.
Well, it depends on where you count Luka. Luka is
all right. So then let's.
Depends where you count.
Yeah, I see. All right, so why don't we then draft it? Do you want to start with the front court? Why don't we do front court? So you can do first pick.
So we'll Jokic, whatever.
So you'll go with Jokic. I'll go with LeBron. You have the third pick. You can pick what's his face?
Steph.
Oh no.
We're doing front court. So Gobert.
So we got LeBron, we got Jokic and Gobert, and now for the backcourt. My first pick for the backcourt is someone who will not be starting in the NBA All-Star game, and it's Chris Paul. Okay, and the only reason I have Chris Paul over, you don't know which of the other two that I dropped, but because Steph Curry, by his standards, he's been playing a lot, worse over the last really 23 games. He's shooting an abysmal 38% from the arc, right? It's so crazy. But I think because Steph hasn't been as good, in my opinion, I guess maybe this is the math that I'm doing. So I do have to have CP3 and Ja. I think Steph has been.
Steph is a starter.
I have Ja as better than Steph, and I think Chris Paul deserves some credit because they're the number 1 team in the NBA, like by a significant margin. I think like it's far enough. So wow, that's a hot take. I'm gonna go with Chris Paul.
It's a hot take. I'm putting Steph as 5. We'll just keep going from there.
Okay, cool.
Yes, he's been a little bit worse over the last 20 games or whatever, but he's still Steph Curry. He's been awesome. The Warriors are awesome. Steph Curry is.
So Steph over Ja for you though.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for me, it's Ja over. For me, it's Ja over Chris Paul too.
Okay, that's
Chris
fair.
Paul is my next guy, but for me, it's Ja.
I just do want to reward the fact that we're gonna have an all-star game in which the 2 best teams in the league don't have a starter is a little bit iffy to me.
Don't count us. I mean, we're only a half game up with 2 games left.
Okay, yeah. Knock on wood. We got to win tonight.
Knock
we'll
on wood,
crush Boston. I'll be there. I'll go to the game. Okay, so the 6th guy that I'm going to throw John there. He's been incredible. Yeah. We already talked about him. Yeah, I think he's a no-brainer.
Next for me, Booker, no-brainer.
Booker, absolutely. Booker's on there. So next up. So now we'll go to some of our forwards. Luka counts as a forward.
Now we have 2 guards, so we need 3 forwards.
2 guards. Yeah, so 3 forwards. All right, so I'll go with Luka Doncic, even though it's funny, Eli, because I know everyone's kind of the narrative about Luka's been he's not having that good of a season. I mean, his stats, he's still but he's still 25.6 points a game and then 8.9 rebounds, 8.9 assists. He's shooting 30 from 3. So I guess it's really that he hasn't improved upon he hasn't been on the trajectory that we thought he'd be after, he went insane in his 2nd season, but he's still incredible. So yeah, Luka's going to be that.
He's still an all-star. Is he first team all NBA like he has been? Maybe not, but he's still all-star.
I would say no.
My next guy, I'm going to put Cat in the all-star team.
I like that. I agree with that. I second that. Cat's also been really good. The Timberwolves are in the playoffs, which is fun. Good for them. Shout out our guy PDK. And
so now we have 3. So we have 3 spots left. I don't think we need to do forwards because let's give the guys their due when they're deserving. So we have 1 forward and 2 wild cards. So whichever guy you think is next, as long as one of us takes the forward.
This is a tough one. There's a few guys who I really could be in. I look at Anthony Edwards. He's having a great season. Gobert, they're a good team.
We have Gobert on already.
Gobert's okay. So Gobert's down. It's a little bit later on my list. So then you know what? I'm gonna go with. It has to be Donovan Mitchell because we haven't put him on there yet. It has to be Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was Donovan Mitchell was my next guy. My next guy after that is Draymond. He's been awesome. He's the actual Warrior that's deserving. not Andrew Wiggins.
Completely agreed. I had Draymond as a starter, which he's also going to probably he's not
he might not play, which might make my life a lot easier if we have to pick a 13th, because I know your 12th right now is not going to be my 12th. I don't know who you're going to pick, but it's not going to be mine.
Yeah.
So because
guess who mine is? Do you know who mine is then? Why don't you give it a guess? I'll tell you I'm in between. Actually, no, it's really not that tough of a decision for me. I think it's one guy that I beat.
Who is it?
You don't have a guess?
So we have one guy. So we have one guy left, and he's a wild card. He could be anything. So I'll give you my honorable mentions and tell me if he's on this list. You said Ant already was honorable mention. AD, I still think is honorable mention. He missed a lot of games, probably not. SGA, same thing, missed some games and was on a bad team. But the three guys that I think it would come down to as my like next tier honorable mention: Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Ingram, DeAndre.
Yes, DeAndre Ayton is who I would put. And maybe we can see there's a certain theme I have is like I'm really valuing winning. That's why actually I wanted to have Harden on my team.
And that's exactly why our disagreement is about to be that exact conversation.
Okay, good. All right. So I actually, I wanted to have Harden on the East. Totally forgot because I still value winning and the Nets are really good and people are sleeping on Harden actually because his stats are still pretty ridiculous, even though
they're just not good by his standards.
What'd you say?
They're just not as good by his standards.
Exactly, by his standards. So, and maybe that's inconsistent because I bumped Steph for Chris Paul, but I guess it's just because I really value winning too. And I think, the level to which the Suns, how good the Suns are right now should be portrayed in the All-Star game. And I think they deserve CP3, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. So DeAndre Ayton will round out our team, but who is your guy that you'd rather have?
So my guy in the last 15 games is averaging 23 points, 8.5 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals on 47% shooting. And for the season, he's averaging basically that 21.6 points, 9 assists, 8.5 rebounds on 45% shooting, while playing, again, all defense caliber basketball, as he always has been. He actually was all defense. I think it was 2 years ago. DeJounte Murray.
Oh, I knew this is coming.
DeJounte Murray is an all-star. I don't think they're really and I actually think he's going to get it, for the record. I think he's going to be the injury replacement if there is one.
I would be very happy with that, honestly.
DeJounte Murray is awesome. He is doing everything. And yes, okay, your argument is the whole, team record isn't very good.
Yeah.
And yes, the Spurs are clearly
they're just out. I think they're at 11. I'm like, all right,
11.
top 10, after 10, it's like
they're at 11. And from that sense, I get it. That's why he was like my 12 and not my 10 or 11 or whatever. But DeJounte Murray is awesome. And I've been he's again, those numbers are insane, right? And okay, yeah, they're not winning, but the team isn't very good, right? You're not looking at the team being they're underperforming, right? If anything, they're overperforming, that they're in the play-in range. I think they're 1 game out or 1.5 games out, whatever it is. They're right there. That's about where we thought they would be. But Murray is playing better than we thought he would play. And that's for somebody who was the biggest Murray fan that I've been texting about him in our group chat a bunch. I think DeJounte Murray is awesome. He's awesome. Playing out of his mind. And especially recently, he's been unbelievable. He has 10 triple doubles, 25 double doubles already this season.
This season? Oh, I didn't know he had 10 triple doubles. That's kind of wild.
He has 10 triple doubles this season. And just a quick look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of them have come in the last 11, 9. 5 of them in the last 10 games, and he has 2 games where he had 9 rebounds. So 1 rebound away from 7 in the last 9 games being triple doubles. He's unbelievable.
Wow.
And he's even shooting a good percentage. He's shooting 45% as a guard, doing all the ball handling. He's been unbelievable. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA as well. 2 steals a game. DeJounte Murray is an all-star. DeAndre Ayton is awesome. Suns already have 2. Yes, they're really good. DeJounte Murray should be an all-star over DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
And definitely over Andrew Wiggins.
I agree. And I wouldn't be mad at that at all. And I think that's why this Wiggins thing really kind of it screws everything up, because now someone's going to get snubbed. And not only, was Wiggins going to get, if he got one of the reserve spots, I'd disagree with that. But it's now he's getting a starter spot too. It shakes up everything. And it is kind of crazy because I would just think Draymond would make way more sense. But for some reason, I don't know what it is. I guess it's because you know why? Because Wiggins scores the ball more and Draymond doesn't, and that's
No,
all we see.
you also know why? It's because of the K-pop guy.
But why did the K-pop guy plug Wiggins instead of Draymond? You know, that's my thing. Like
the Warriors are smart. Warriors are. I wouldn't be. They hired this. So for those that don't know, the Warriors hired this like K-pop star, which is the most powerful organization in the world. K-pop is it's crazy how famous this genre of music is. They hired him as their like global ambassador, whatever that means. I have no idea. Right. And it wouldn't surprise me if they were like, yo, tweet about Andrew Wiggins because we wanted to get another all-star, and he's like right there. Right. Like I do want to give Wiggins some credit. Wiggins is really
good. He's very good.
He's playing really good. And frankly, like he's not at my top 12, but Wiggins would be in that like next tier. Who are the guys I just said were my next guys? It was Brandon Ingram, DeAndre, and Jaren Jackson Jr. He's like right, like I think he's in that caliber. He's unbelievable on defense. He's shooting 41.5% from three. I think it was something like 41% from three. He's shooting 48 from the field, averaging 18 points and playing good defense, right? Like for a really good team. Andrew Wiggins is very good. I don't want to take, entirely away from him by saying like he's not an all-star, he's trash, whatever. None of that is true. But he's not trash, but he's not better than DeJounte Murray for that, just to use that as an example. And I don't even think he's better than, I think he's right below Ayton, Brandon Ingram, and Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. And those are all front court guys. So if you even want to play the front court, like those guys are right there, and it's just, it stinks, right? It stinks that, good for him, good for the Warriors, good for the Warriors fans who are crazy. Like they vote these guys every year. Klay Thompson was like 5th in guard voting.
Zaza almost got it that one year.
Zaza almost got it that one year. Like, good for the Warriors fans. They represent, good for them. My brother's a Warriors fan. Shout out Alan, I guess. But like, I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Andrew Wiggins is an all-star starter.
No, it really is nuts. And I was thinking about when he got drafted. I was like, wow, we thought he'd be an all-star, then he wasn't, and now he somehow is, even though it doesn't quite make sense. But let's run through our teams really quick. So on the East, we got DeMar and Jimmy with KD, Giannis, and Embiid. Then we got Trey, Kyle Lowry, Jason Tatum, James Harden, Jared Allen, Fred VanVleet, Zach LaVine, and then Siakam was our injury replacement. And then out in West, or Garland.
Siakam or Garland.
Siakam or Garland. That's fair. Then we got in the West, LeBron, Jokic, Gobert with Chris Paul and Steph Curry in the backcourt. Then Ja, Booker, Luka, Kat, Donovan Mitchell, Draymond Green, and then either Ayton or DeJounte Murray. One of those guys will be the replacement. So those are our all-star teams, and we'll see. I mean, I guess they're coming out on Thursday, right? So we'll probably get this pod out by tomorrow, which will be Tuesday, and then, another 2 days, and we'll see who they actually pick. But Eli, this has been an absolute blast. I'm actually going to go to the Heat game in the Garden tonight. So hopefully
it's going to be a big game tonight on the road. Third game in 4 nights. And we have another one tomorrow. 4 games in 5 nights. I don't know.
How is that still happening?
I have no idea. 4 games in 5 nights, 3 of them on the road, or 2 of them on the road. These 2 back-to-back on the road. Starting a 6-game road stretch too. Our next 6 games are on the road, and it starts with a back-to-back after a home back-to-back.
And not to mention a triple overtime game.
Yeah, and a triple overtime game. And no Jimmy, no PJ tonight. But the Celtics stink, and the Heat have been winning without players literally all season. So.
A few predictions. Bam's going to score the first basket, and Max Strus is going to have.
I don't know who's going to play in the front court for us. I literally just thought about this because Omer's in health and safety protocols.
Oh, he's gone. That's right. Omer.
But even still, don't play 3 centers anyway.
Who's sweet Omer.
It's going to be a lot of Caleb Martin playing like the 4. It's going to be a lot of, not even Lowry. It's going to be a lot of Vincent, Hero, Martin, Strus. And then
that's all I need in my life. That's all I need in my life. Just give me that.
2 bigs.
Inject that into my veins. And if those guys can go and beat Tatum, who, I guess we're a much better team than the Celtics, but like, those guys upsetting Tatum, not upsetting because of course we're favored, but
I wonder if we're like actually favored.
Yeah, who knows? But anyway, Eli, it's been a blast. I appreciate you as always. Thanks for coming on. Everyone, thank you for listening. Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.